It's been about 6 weeks since we installed the new Aquaclear on a couple of tanks in my fish room. Most importantly, the first one we installed is the Aquaclear 70, the new version that is, on my 30 breeder pleco tank that has my wob and mooster plecos. Now granted, it's almost impossible to see the fish because they're plecos and they love to hide. But what we did have is a couple of problems and a couple of positives. So let's go over those. The first thing, right away, within a week of installing this thing, the rim of my Aquarium Masters tank is too wide. So because of that, I get frustrated and I laugh at this at the same time because the filter doesn't sit perfectly flush and down, it sits a little bit high. But I'm also kind of dealing with something very similar with the Aquaclear 50 on a standard Aqueon 40 breeder that's over there with my angelfish. It's not as bad with that one, it's only a little bit, and that's just because of the way the self-leveling mechanism is, which, if you look at it from the side, it's got little notches to help self-level on everything other than the Aquaclear 110. I would show the Aquaclear 110 because it's the only one I haven't installed. I ended up deciding that I was just going to leave my old faithful over here when I started seeing some of the problems in the elevation increase in my pleco tank, which you're seeing B-roll of that from when we did that video. And again, yeah, you'll probably shame me for the light because it's very dirty. I have cleaned it a little bit. I need to do a second cleaning on it because, yeah, it gets a bunch of junk on it. That's what happens when you have a completely open top tank that has pretty high flow across the top, is there's a reasonable amount of splashing. It causes little particulates to slowly build up. Thankfully, the lights handle that really well, so go Fluval, but the aquarium co-op lights do too, to be honest, and lots of other lights do. This is basically just the cheap Chinese ones that don't. Filter! Let's talk about filter. I'm all over the place. It's been a weird week. So, what I want to do is cut over to the footage I filmed where I'm sitting talking about some of the observations now that we're about 6 weeks in, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of summarize what's going on and how we'll keep testing from here on out. Okay, so here we are back at my pleco tank. It's been about 6 weeks, and I think you can see, like, the Aquaclear is doing just fine as far as flow is concerned. My water level's a little high because I just did a water change, but you have to forgive me, I have this, like, handheld light that I'm trying to work with. So you can see it there, but what I really want to show is down here. You can see how much less gunk and algae is here compared to before. And the pleco caves just like move on their own. That's part of the bare bottom. But I have been purposely not really trying to actively maintain the sponge portion. I've left it alone the entire time. We'll zoom in here. And I'm sure you can see it's got quite a bit of dirt and algae all over it. And yet, that flow is just fine. And more importantly, I really haven't heard any noise out of it. As I drop my light. So, basically, you can see that the extra flow is helping here. Now, granted, we still have this guy running, and yeah, my light's still a little dirty, and yeah, Papalimo's barking. Hey, calm down. Sheesh. But, overall, in the 6 weeks this thing has been running, I haven't serviced it once, not even the intake sponge, and we have no noticeable drop-off in flow, which I think is really good. It means that the sponges are not too fine to keep movement going, but they are fine enough to pick up a reasonable amount of detritus, as you can kind of see there. I mean, I feel like it speaks for itself to start. Now, granted, some of the problems with the Aquaclear are when they run long-term. The rattling lid problem is a very long-term issue. It's not something that most Aquaclear users are going to see inside of, say, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. It's going to be something that's like a year, 2 years down the line. But so far, I've seen effectively no loss in flow despite the intake filter getting a reasonable amount of junk and chunks of algae hanging on it, and it's elevated. And there's been several times where if you looked at, like, if here's the rim of the tank, the water level gets about an inch below that just because of the natural amount of evaporation. This happens once a week. It allows me to do nice, cool water changes, which the plecos really like. And it kind of mimics lightly the cycle of nature that they're used to, where evaporation occurs, big heavy rainfall, lots of dilution, cooler temperatures, etc. Now granted, my Wobbin Rooster plecos are horrible parents, kick their eggs out, and the amount I've been working lately basically makes it impossible for me to catch them in time to prevent them from fungusing, and thus try to get pleco babies out of them. I'm not too stressed. They're all living well. I have a backup colony over there, and I even have a backup pair over there. Those 2 tanks. But what I will say is, so far, especially on the Aquaclear 70, because that's the one that I think is taking the brunt of the work, there are some similar things going on with the Aquaclear 50 that I have over here. The only reason I'm not going to film it is, frankly, turning on the lights after they've already gone off really spooks my angelfish. And with one already kind of on its last legs as far as old age is concerned, all of my angels are kind of old. Well, I guess the 2 that are remaining. The whole, we've slowly lost them due to age. I just don't want to spook them. That's really what it comes down to. I know, Bentley's being lazy. Shame on me, but I've been getting home a bit later almost every day just because I've been working a ton, and I'm trying to do things that make life easier on my fish. I am slowly adjusting their light schedule, but they're the ones that actually haven't been adjusted yet. Like, this tank's had some adjustments, this tank's had some adjustments, the Guppy Mansion has. I'm kind of shifting everybody a little later because I leave very early in the morning, and I don't really see my fish. And I come home late at night, and what's been happening is I come in to feed my fish, and all the lights are off, except for, like, 2 tanks. So I'm slowly adjusting the light schedules in my house to more closely mimic my time when I'm going to be home and interacting with my fish tanks on a daily basis, which, I do like my kind of tour. I check on things. I look at how my plants are looking. I feed my fish. I watch their behavior, that kind of stuff, right? Basic, simple things, but it's my way to make sure that on a, effectively speaking, daily basis, there is some level of check and care. Having a filter that I can run for 6 weeks without maintenancing it in a fairly dirty pleco tank, and I think that's the big thing. The sponge that is on the intake is just the right level of fine and coarse. It's like that middle ground. It's the Goldilocks, where it's just coarse enough. Plus there is, it's not a full hole, but there's a like cross-shaped cut that is in the sponge that goes all the way through the sponge. So there is a little extra give in the bottom to let extra water come through. And I think that's actually really good. Now, one thing that it should be noted is the internal sponges inside the filter. So like the big brick that comes in the Aquaclear 110 and similar brick of sponge that is not as large and imposing in the other Aquaclears is a slightly more coarse sponge than the original Aquaclears. So the way that I would put this is if it was a 50 before, it's more like a 45 now, maybe a 40. It is slightly more coarse, but I actually think that's a kind of a good change because as it plugs up, you're less likely to lose that water movement through the filter and get where you get just like the little drops and trickles if you're like really behind on your maintenance schedule. That can occasionally occur in your filter. So I think these are positives. There's still a few things that we have to remain to see, and some of those tests are coming soon. So let's talk about the testing we need to do. One, we need to keep letting that water level get low to where, in theory, the suction power is not quite as strong, and then start simulating power outages. Because one of the biggest complaints from almost all of us aquarists is in the case of a power outage, unless you've got your water levels absolutely perfect, it is very hard for the old Aquaclears to self-prime. Now, the new Aquaclear with that tube shape is very good at self-priming, and I have not seen it really struggle even when the water level gets fairly close to that intake sponge and where the opening for the intake is, which in most filters, as you start to do that, if you get too low, you just lose all suction entirely. Now, granted, I haven't let it get that low, and I'm not intending to let it get that low, but I think it'll be interesting to note, in the case of power outages, where's the cutoff of how it is effectively repriming itself versus no longer capable of self-priming? Because that's usually the thing that most people will go, this is why I buy a Tidal instead of a Aquaclear, is because no matter what, that pump is inside the tank in the water, which means that it is going to always self-prime as soon as it has power. It doesn't even need to have water in the back of the box because the pump is in the tank's water. So it can effectively self-prime with no water in the filter box. The Aquaclear can't do that. The Aquaclear has to have some amount of water inside it, but it's not like all your water is going to spill out in a power outage. So the question is, where do we find that combination of the water is too low and its ability to reprime on suction low is not strong enough? Now, because the pleco tank is a little elevated naturally, or rather the filter on the pleco tank, this makes it a better candidate for doing some of those tests. But I will still try to do a few tests over here on the angelfish tank, and we'll figure out something with the 110. I've basically been holding it in reserve just in case I feel I need to slap it on the pleco tank, basically put. Because I do want to eventually get rid of the title that is on that tank, just because the natural evaporation with it being open, and I'm doing this on purpose, causes that thing to get loud for like a day or two a week. And while my wife says she's just used to it at this point, I kind of just want to like not have her hear it because I feel like I'm being a bad husband. I'm being a bad husband. It's beat me up in the comments. Go for it. Anyway, so far, I'm actually really impressed with the new title. I still think there is room for innovation. I feel like they've taken kind of the easiest path to fixing problems instead of truly deciding to completely reinvent the wheel, so to speak, or just kind of, that's probably a bad one. Reinvent the wheel is bad because you don't reinvent something that's perfect as is, but more like reinvent what an external hang-on-the-back filter can be, because I think there is ground to make changes and figure something out that is truly special, that is that piece of equipment where everybody goes, that one. That's the one. Accept no substitutes until everybody else catches up, right? I think there is still room to do that. There's also the attachment that is there. So you can get a skimmer attachment that adds basically this little like elbow pipe with a skimmer and still keeps the bottom intake. And what I would like to do is after we do a set of power outage tests and keep this thing running, I kind of want to try switching to the skimmer attachment. But I think I'm going to do that on a different tank. Maybe we'll do it on the angelfish tank. But yeah, I want to try that attachment out as well because, I don't know, it seems cool. And I like the fact that they've made it an option that you can buy. It would be really cool if it just came with the filter. But yeah, companies do their things to make money, right? It's understandable, especially if you're getting the filter at some of the deals that are out right now. It's kind of its introduction. There are lots of places that are selling them. PetSmart especially has like a perpetual $20 off coupon on their online app, or at least at the time of when I bought mine and still at the time of filming, I had seen it. So after we get through all the power outage testing and kind of seeing where that threshold is where it keeps self-priming with some of the new engineering changes to the inlet tube and those kind of things, then what we'll do is pick up that skimmer attachment and start doing some testing with that skimmer attachment, and we'll go from there. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. Honestly, I think depending on your need, right? If you're in a tank that doesn't deal with a lot of evaporation, like my pleco tank does, I don't think you need to replace your titles if you have one, or maybe not even replace your old Aquaclears. Let's be frank. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, if you are building a new tank, maybe your filter is like on the verge of just giving up hope, right? And you need a new filter. So far, the new The Aquaclears, I think, might be better than the title. I know, John's gonna hate me because he's a big fan of the title, and I've been a big fan of the title in general. But I think if you're looking for a couple of small upgrades that are meaningful, which is to say, having an intake sponge is something that the title just doesn't do very well without you doing some DIY solutions. Now, if you're DIY friendly and you're not a complete dum-dum like me, the title actually can be altered in all sorts of cool ways. However, for those of us that really aren't DIY friendly, the new Aquaclear gives us a direct path to having a built-in, comes in the package, intake sponge. And if that small intake sponge requires too much maintenance for you, you can always go and upgrade to a bigger intake sponge, whether that's like the kinds that are sold all over the place, that are very coarse, or something more fine, whatever that may be, you'll figure out your solution. I kind of like about that 40 ppm, or I guess it's DPI? Whatever. The 41. My brain is so fried from work right now. I've been working way too much, and I'm a one-man show. It's killing me a little bit. Anyway, I really, really appreciate all of you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have gotten one of the new Aquaclears, I would love to hear your feedback down below. What do you like? What do you not like? Are there problems you've encountered so far? Is it like a miracle worker and it has just done everything you could ever hope for and dream for? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing and ring the little notification bell, because that's the best way to tell Grandpapa YouTube and its infinite AI algorithms that, hey, I like this stuff and maybe someone else will too. And that's what helps us small fish tubers keep doing what we're doing. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.